Interesting article here by Michael F. Brown on the electronic intifada. Democratic Party has anti-Palestinian racism problem. Former U.S. Ambassador to Israel Dan Shapiro voted against mild Democratic platform amendment upholding Palestinian rights. Presidential candidate Joe Biden agrees with this stance. In a move that bodes well for Israel, the Democratic National Committee's platform committee voted on Monday to reject additional language that would make the party's stance on the Jewish state more critical. Again, both parties, more or less, save for a few people within the Democratic Party, by and large, just have unconditional support for the government of Israel while they continually, day after day, just brutally violate the rights of the Palestinian people with further annexations, just destroying, bulldozing Palestinians' homes, the whole issue of the apartheid state. It's just disgusting, and the U.S. Is a huge player in allowing this to happen with their huge amount of military aid that they give to the Israeli government year after year. Again, no strings attached. That's why this is able to happen. So writes Jackson Richmond with JNS, a publication focusing on Israel and the Jewish community. A more accurate sentence would read that the move bodes well for apartheid Israel. The Biden wing of the platform committee, including vice presidential contender Keisha Lance Bottoms, voted down minor improvements that barely tempered the document's overwhelmingly pro-Israel tilt. But they would at least have recognized that Palestinians are under military occupation, clearly oppose settlements, and minimally conditioned U.S. Again, it's like Michael F. Brown's pointing out here, just very, very mild critique. Democratic National Committee platform voters couldn't even get on board with that. It just really shows how to the right the Democratic Party is when it comes to their just unconditional support of Israel, no matter just all the hugely problematic, disgusting, and illegal things they're doing to the Palestinians. It's unconscionable. The outcome of the vote, strongly against the amended wording, can be seen here. Staff for AOC, a progressive leader, did not respond to the electronic intifada as to why she abstained. Oh, and then look, Jesus Christ, come on, AOC, really? You abstained for this vote? Get the fuck out of here. It's, again, more just symbolism for AOC when it comes to foreign policy. Like, I believe it was it Bolivia, or I think Venezuela? She said that she would defer to party leadership on that matter. Either one, if it was Bolivia or Venezuela, that's fucked up. And then, she comes out with that banning military recruiters on Twitch, but then on this, she can't even vote for this very, 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 very mild critique of the Israeli government and their horrible, inhumane treatment of the Palestinian people. Get the fuck out of here with that shit, AOC. What the fuck, really? Is she lining up with Biden's wing's hardline pro-Israel position, or did she feel the amendment did not go far enough? If the latter is the case, she should say so, for sure. Platform to say will never amplify or legitimize the voices of bigotry, racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or white supremacy. Not one word is given in the platform, however, to denouncing anti-Arab and anti-Palestinian racism. These sentiments are all too present in the Biden wing of the Democratic Party and pervasive in the Republican Party. Joe Biden himself voted for the war with Iraq ahead of both 1991 and the 2003 U.S.-led wars. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed in those attacks, which further destabilized the region and led directly to massive disaster and death. Biden is also on record on saying, "I think it's about time we stop apologizing for our support in Israel." Again, he said he gets elected, nothing will fundamentally change. And that goes with regards to our just ridiculous unconditional partnership with the Israeli government while they, again, continue to brutalize, kill, maim, torture Palestinian people and destroy their lands, occupy them day after day. It's the best $3 billion investment we make, he asserted. We're here, not in Israel. The United States of America would have to invent Israel to protect her interests in the region. Hard no. Agreed. Agreed. Like Nina Turner said, voting for Joe Biden is the equivalent of having to eat a bowl of shit. This is another case in point of that. Language lays bare a total lack of concern regarding the dispossession and subjugation of Palestinians that went along with the creation of Israel, and it points to an ongoing satisfaction with Israel's use of military aid to occupy Palestinian territory. It's good for the military-industrial complex. And companies like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, Raytheon, etc. Biden's platform delegates overwhelmingly agree, though not unanimously. Josh Rubner at Mondowis pointed out Thursday that Biden delegate Farhana Kara, executive director of Muslim Advocates, and Khurram Wahad, chair of Engage Action, voted for the amendment. Kudos to them, but it seems like they probably were the only ones. Biden's delegates voted down the language stating that no United States aid may be used to facilitate annexation or violate really. So again, the Biden wing, by and large, couldn't even vote for the language that said that, the U.S. aid should maybe be on the condition that it's not going to support annexation or violation of Palestinians' human rights. Really? That's, again, frankly not surprising, but still obviously hugely problematic and disgusting on every level. The delegates also rejected acknowledging the occupation and choose not to oppose settlements, but only settlement expansion, effectively legitimizing all of Israel's land theft to date, which has been going on for obviously quite some time on a pretty huge level. Alternative language promoted by Palestinian American delegates was not even brought for a vote. According to Mondowis, Palestinian American delegates authored an amendment that included, quote, conditioning military funding to Israel, ending Israel occupation, opposing Israel settlements, asserting Palestinian rights to Jerusalem, exercising a discriminatory reference to Israel as a Jewish state, or excising, and calling for equal rights between Palestinians and Israeli Jews. All that seems very, very like common sense. Like it just makes sense if you actually care about people and not just, propping up the Israeli government that's just been, again, just committing atrocity after atrocity against the Palestinian people with regards to human rights, stealing their lands, killing them when they protest these fucked up, unconscionable things happening. Palestinian Americans felt that they could only offer an amendment conditioning rather than ending military aid to Israel, points to the deeply entrenched opposition to Palestinian rights they faced within the party, and even that watered-down language was out of reach. Monday's vote points to profound anti-Palestinian racism with the party, akin to refusing acknowledging the reality of apartheid in South Africa and refusing to cut aid to South Africa for forced Bantuization of the country. Writer Peter Beinart, a recent convert to the cause of equality in one state for Palestinians, Israel Jews, and others living there, pointed to the racist oppression Democrats are backing by refusing to take any stand against Israel's plan to annex Palestinian land without granting Palestinians their rights. It's just been, pretty cool to see Beinart have a change of heart on this issue. Understand what this means. Most Democratic leaders don't actually support two states. In practice, they support one state that denies millions of Palestinians basic rights. I prefer equality between the river and the sea. Let's stop pretending and have the debate. I mean, just look at how overwhelmingly it was voted down, 177 to 34. I mean, for God's sakes, again, it's it's like a cut and dry matter. You're either on the right side of history on this issue, or you're not. Just like Michael F. Brown pointed out, you're either on the right side of history when it came to condemning the apartheid state in South Africa, or you're on the wrong side of history. Same goes for this issue. Ali Abduma responded by noting how even the two-state solution that Democrats say they back is inherently built on inequality for Palestinians. Sam Hindi, a Palestinian American Democratic National Committee delegate, raised a similar concern. Quote, supporting Israel as a Jewish state rather than a state for all citizens is tantamount to endorsing institutional racism and apartheid, he told the electronic Intifada, noting that more than 20% Israel citizens are not Jewish. Barbara Goldberg-Goldman, who voted no, disagrees. She's on record promoting Israel as a Jewish and democratic state rather than a state for all citizens. I don't know what you could call that besides, institutional racism and apartheid. Support for this sort of ethno-nationalism and discriminating against Palestinian citizens of Israel should have no place in the Democratic Party any more than would a white and democratic state or Christian and democratic state. Dan Shapiro, President Obama's ambassador to Israel, who voted against the amendments after implicitly backing the party's support for Israel apartheid, he asserted, we're a diverse party and many views are heard, but Democrats are unified against these principles of equality and human rights for both Israelis and Palestinians is what that really says, And then here's Glenn Greenwald. Remember in 2014 when we heard annexation was among the worst crimes a nation could commit and must be punished? Yesterday, 131 members of the DNC Platform Committee voted against denying the U.S. aid to Israel if they annex the West Bank. Only 34 voted yes. There's Joe Biden. It's disgusting. Shapiro is signaling that Democrats may not like some of what Israel is doing, such as annexation, but they like standing up to Israel and for Palestinian equal rights even less. I mean, again, that's the only conclusion you can frankly draw here. Shapiro and Wendy Sherman, Deputy Secretary of State during the Obama admin, both spoke out against the amendments. Palestinian American delegate Hindi said that the intervention by Shapiro and Sherman skewed the debate. He called it an unbalanced process for the Platform Committee to allow two former high-ranking officials to speak against the amendment. Hindi said two voices against one was contrary to how other amendments were handled. He noted that the platform's call for a two-state solution without any measure to hold Israel accountable is hollow. It's a preposterous call, as Israel's illegal unilateral actions of building settlements, land theft, ethnic cleansing render that solution impossible to establish a contiguous and viable Palestinian state, Hindi said. By voting to ignore Palestinian rights, the DNC Platform Committee, quote, has chosen the path of complicity and cowardice, according to Jewish Voice for Peace Action. The party had adopted a platform that is wildly out of touch with Democratic base, the group said. But according to Beth Miller, Jewish Voice for Peace's Action's government affairs manager, the intergenerational, multiracial movement of Palestinians, Jews, and allies within the Democratic base will continue to grow and keep pushing for Palestinian rights, dignity, and freedom, as they should, as everybody should. There's no other choice. The anti-Palestinian racism with the Biden wing of the Democratic Party is clear. It may sound softer than President Donald Trump, but is no less harmful to Palestinians living under Israel military occupation and apartheid. Advocates for Palestinian rights who plan to vote for Biden on November 3rd, an election date that demagogic Trump is questioning, will have to keep challenging the Democratic candidate if he is victorious. But again, good luck. Good luck pushing Biden left on this issue or any other issue, frankly. Yet the grassroots pressure must not only be on the party establishment, but also on those calling themselves progressives. A first step would be to demand that, Ocasio-Cortez speak out about what happened with the Platform Committee. Her silence is deeply troubling. So I'll link this article in the description box down below. Again, sad to say, not surprising that the DNC platform committee voted this way. But WTF, AOC, why did you abstain on this vote? Your foreign policy acumen just had another really questionable mark against it. You need to answer for this. What the fuck's going on? Peace. Much love.